Hello and thank you for joining me. This is Sierra from Sierra 2 Designs, and today I have for you guys a card for the Little Patch of Crafty Friends challenge blog that I'm a part of. So let's jump right in. So to make this card I did opt to use some stitched dies. I know I don't usually use dies to cut down my cardstock, usually I just use my trimmer, but because this is a bit of a not minuscule card, but a card that doesn't have a lot of blending or a lot of different colors, I kind of wanted that stitched detail around the outside of the cardstock just to add a little bit of an extra element. So I am using My Favorite Things A2 stitched rectangles, and I'm going to use that for my black mat and for my white panel. I just used the largest and then the second largest size to kind of add that stitched detail around the outside. And then my panel that I actually blend on is going to be a piece of Neenah Solar White 80-pound cardstock. Both the white and the black mat of this card are 100-pound cardstocks. I have everything linked and listed down below if you guys ever want to know what I'm using specifically. But you can kind of see that that little bit of extra detail there kind of just ties it all together. I really like how that looks. So I'm going to grab out my domed foams to do some Oxide ink blending. I know eventually I'll stop showing you guys this, but I'm just still so excited about this little file that I created to kind of hold my Oxide blending foams, so I keep showing it videos. But I'm going to blend 4 colors together, and I'm only doing it on half of the page because I knew that I was going to cut this down with a die. And I knew that the square was about this wide. So I kind of opted just to do like a kind of a half a page of Oxide blending. And for my colors, I have Speckled Egg, Peacock Feathers, Chipped Sapphire, and Black Soot. You're going to see in the end that there wasn't very much Black Soot in the colored panel when I kind of cut it down. So you could have left that out, really. I mean, it didn't really end up in the card, but I just like to add black soot at the end. I just find it adds a little bit more drama to the color, a little more depth. So I really enjoy adding black soot, but in this blend you pretty much didn't really need to. And I'm just going to blend back and forth on these colors until I like how the blend looks. And in the start I also only really brought black soot into the very top of my blend. But then I kind of ended up moving everything down and then kind of reblending my colors. So here you can see I brought Peacock Feathers down further, and I'm going to bring Chipped Sapphire down a bit further because I didn't like, I knew that my square die wasn't quite going to fit all the 4 colors. So I am going to bring that black soot down a bit further, but I still think honestly in the end that you're not really going to see it. You'll have to tell me if you can really notice the black soot in the final card, but that's kind of what I was thinking there, so I kind of just tried to bring it down a bit further. So once that was dry, I stuck a piece of purple tape on the back just so it would hold it down to my glass mat. And here I have the Simon Says Stamp Random Dots and Stars stencil. And I'm just taping it to my glass mat. I was too lazy to put pixie spray or anything on it because I knew that I was going to trim this down, so I didn't really need a perfect application of my Glitz glitter gel here. So I wasn't really concerned about it. And this is the Iridescent Gina Glitz glitter gel. And I'm just going to use my little spatula there to kind of put it on top of the dots. But I knew that I was going to trim this down, so I wasn't really after a perfect application, so I didn't really worry about how well it was stuck to my cardstock there. And I mean, the glass mat is so forgiving. It's one of my favorite things to work on. That's why you see it in every video, because it's so forgiving. If you get glue on it, you can get it off. If you get Glitz glitter gel dried on it, you can scrape it off. Like, it doesn't seem to matter what I throw at it. It always bounces back, and just I can wash it off or scrape it off or clean it up in some way. So it's my favorite thing to work on. Also, I can cut on it and all those things. So I just applied that Glitz glitter gel on top and then lifted up my stencil, and that's what we got. So now it's dry at this point. Make sure that it's dry before you cut it. And then I just brought in a Simon Says Stamp Stitched Squares die, and I'm just going to cut out a background for my card. And then, yeah, I wanted smaller splatters too for the snow. So I brought in, this is just a mini mister full of perfect pearls and water, and I'm just kind of splattering them onto the background for some smaller snowflakes, so they're not quite as big as the iridescent ones. But you still kind of get that really cool shine. So this little mousse is from Bugaboo Stamps. It's the Christmas mousse. This will also be listed in the link down below. And I used my Cricut to cut it out because it is a digital stamp. I have a Cricut, and I added a small white border around the image so that it was easier to keep the ornaments on the moose's head. And then I just cut it out with my Cricut. If you ever want to see how I do that, let me know. I can make a video on how I add a white border to my digital images and then cut them out with my Cricut if you guys, or just ask me questions. If you're ever curious about how I'm doing anything, just by all means, please ask me some questions. So because my background is quite colorful, I didn't want my moose to kind of, like, because I considered coloring it more exciting colors, because, I mean, moose are brown, but I kind of considered doing different colors, and in the end opted to just go with browns, shades of brown. So I'm going to have a couple of different shades here. I have E57 and E27, that's what I'm using right now. And then when I go into the main, I have E79 and E49. And I'm only using my darker shade really to kind of outline where the shadow would be. I'm not really opting for a blend. I kind of like how it looks a little bit more stark without a fully blended out outline. So I'm just using the darkest color to add a shadow anywhere that there would be shadowing. That's pretty much all I didn't go for a hardcore blend on this. I mean, the image isn't very big, so I kind of opted to just stay a little bit lighter in my color selection. I mean, you could do a huge selection if you wanted to, but I opted not to. The pink I have right there is R22. I guess it's actually a red, but it's R22. And then the antlers, I'm going to use R24 and E42 and E13. I got confused there for a second. And I'm just going to, again, use the darkest color just to honestly shade where the ornaments are hanging off, and that's pretty much all I brought the darker color in for. And then I'm going to color all of the ornaments. I picked 3 sets of 2 colors. I have R14 and R05, that's my red ornaments. I'm going to have Y08 and Y19, those are kind of my yellower goldy-ish shaded elements. And then I brought in a green, and I have G14 and G05. And that's all the Copic coloring. It's pretty simple Copic coloring. Like I said, I didn't really do any blending. I didn't get too excited about having lots of colors or lots of dimension or whatever. I think he turned out adorable. I really like how this little moose turned out, and it's drawn so adorably. So make sure you go and check out the Bugaboo Stamps store. And yeah, like, they have so many great images in there, and they're just super, super adorable. And I couldn't resist adding some white highlights. So I brought in just a Jelly Roll pen, and I'm just adding white highlights, and there's no rhyme or reason. I'm not really focusing on where, you know, like the shadows and shading and highlights would actually be. I kind of just add them where I like them. They don't necessarily make sense, and I don't think it matters because it's quite a whimsical image. So I don't think it takes away by not being 100% realistic, but I thought that was super cute. And then I brought in some Nuvo Deluxe glue, and I'm just going to eyeball this. You could bring in a ruler and kind of make sure that it's perfectly straight. I wasn't too worried about it, so I just kind of eyeballed the placement. But I did need the placement because I want to stamp my sentiment just under the corner of the colored panel there. So sorry about that camera shake. One of my cats is playing with the camera mount. So then I did stick down or glue down my black mat. I just have the base open so I could see the alignment, and then I kind of just line it up. Like I said, I just eyeball this. If you're not comfortable with that, no, by no means could you not use a ruler. Absolutely. I just have a tendency to be too lazy for that, so I don't, but you absolutely could. And I just have a tiny sentiment here. It's from the Simon Says Stamp Christmas Cheer stamp set, and I've just lined it up under the right-hand corner of my colored panel, and it just says Merry Christmas. I kind of wanted something simple. I didn't want it to take away from the coloring and the blending in the background, so I just really opted for a simple sentiment that was quite straightforward and wouldn't steal the show. So that's kind of it. It's just stamped down there in the corner, and that's kind of all for the sentiment. Really simple. And then we're going to take this and add it to the card base. And now I did kind of ponder back and forth a few times whether or not I wanted to pop my moose up and add a little more dimension and that kind of thing, but in the end I kind of opted not to, because there is multiple pieces of cardstock, right? At this point, behind that moose there's what? The base, the mat, the white mat, and then the colored panel, so there's 4 pieces of cardstock, so it's already fairly dimensional. And with the one antler that's hanging off the edge there, I didn't glue that down. It's kind of free floating above the background there. So that's just a choice. You could absolutely prop this up some more and add some more dimension to this card. In the end, I opted not to. I just went with the amount of layers I already had for cardstock there. But that's just personal preference. I mean, you can add more dimension, you could add more sparkle, you could do everything. Shockingly, I did not add any jewels to this. Mind-boggling. I pondered it pretty seriously, but I thought that it was just such a cute card and didn't really need any extra bling. So I'm going to hold it up here now so you can take a gander at what I've created. That's what I have for you guys today. I hope you'll go and check out the challenge blog and leave me a like, leave me a comment, and I'd love if you'd consider subscribing. Thank you so much, guys, and I will see you tomorrow for my next Christmas video. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.